Would you please welcome Jonathan Bignell? Jonathan Bignell is Professor of Television and Film at the University of Reading. He has led teams of researchers on 5 major projects and studying the history of British television drama, most recently Spaces of Television Production, Sight and Style. And just to say that the season in conjunction with that, Dramatic Spaces, the imaginative world of the television studio, is currently running at the BFI South Bank, and you can see that season until the end of this month. Jonathan.
Thank you for that plug, Marcus, and I'll plug your curation of that season for us again shortly. Thank you, everyone. I'll try to be fairly swift. This is another one of those team-based research projects like the ones we've previously heard about, it's the 5th in a series of these that I've been involved with for over the years, and like all of the previous ones, what it tries to do really, I suppose, is to first of all to discover some things that we either don't know or have forgotten about the history of British television drama, and secondly, it tries to address the things that we think we already do know from a slightly different angle, which might therefore reorient our sense of the knowledge that we think we've already got. So I'll try and make more sense of that sort of point as I go along. The title of the project, I hope, is to a degree self-explanatory. What it's about is studying the physical spaces, like the actual material places where TV is made, drama TV is made in Britain from 55 to 94, chosen because that's the start of ITV in 55. 94 is the last programme to be shot wholly in a TV studio. By BBC, 1994. So that's the reason for the span of the dates. So what we're looking at is these places where programs are made. So that's the studios or the locations in which they're shot, and then how programs are made within those spaces. So whether they're in the earlier years, whether they are broadcast live from a studio or recorded in long tranches of time as if live, but recorded onto tape and then subsequently broadcast, or recorded on film, 16mm or 35mm film. And so the technologies and the spaces, of course, are connected to each other. And there's also the hybrid of outside broadcast video, which is where you have electronic cameras used in outdoor location settings, so kind of between studio video and location film, really. And then, having established these sort of contexts for programs, what difference it makes for that production space to be adopted, and what's its relationship to style. So the aim of the project, I suppose, in total, is to make this link between technologies of production practice and the aesthetics of actual programs. To do this, we established a team of people with rather different kinds of expertise. So there's me, I'm the person who's kind of in charge of it all and responsible for the money. The 2 postdocs who work with me at Reading. Now, Billy Smart's PhD was about TV versions of theatre plays. So that's the kind of set of expertise that he brought with him to this. Leah Panos used to be a location manager for the BBC and subsequently did a PhD which was about Alan Clark and his use of Steadicam, and then evolved into a PhD about representations of the working class, so a different set of expertise. James Chapman is a historian who knows about British cinema as much as about television, so there's like a film thing that he brought with him to it, and he supervised a PhD by Victoria Bayard, which is about fantasy programming, particularly for children. Stephen Lacey is initially a specialist on theatre drama from the 1950s onwards, and TV, supervising a PhD by Ben Lamb, which is about the police series, and about the spaces that you see in police series, police stations, people's houses where crimes have taken place, these sorts of things. So this group of people had a rather diverse but interesting set of interconnections. And so we've been going since 2010, picking on lots of little case studies or aspects of this broad set of issues. And so using analysis of programs as broadcast, the things that we can find out about what viewers thought, which often means BBC audience research reports, basically. Archival documents, again, of course, BBC one's easier to access than anybody else's. And the histories of the technologies that are used to make programs and what practitioners have to say about what they did when you interview them. So many different kinds of methodologies and several different sorts of people bringing different kinds of expertise together. So, right, this is all a bit abstract. So here's a couple of examples. Space, technology, storytelling, soap opera. Coronation Street, in the late 1980s, started to use outside broadcast video technology to do its exterior scenes, rather than using film, which is what they had been doing previously. So this had an effect on the way that the episodes looked, because the outside shots were cheaper and easier to do, and therefore there were more of them. And the program had I guess, a sense of being opened out in the way that people talk about opening out a drama beyond a single location. Again, in soap opera, Phil Redmond, who created Brookside, got fascinated by the Steadicam, the sort of balancing camera rig, which he started to use in Brookside in its early days. We think the first time Steadicam was at least regularly used in British TV, to give a sense of the fluidity of space around which action could occur in Brookside Close, even taking the camera into rooms and through the houses of the close. So again, technology and space affects the shape of the drama that you can produce. I've got a couple more examples, which I hope I can fit in. So another thing that some of us in the team are interested in is the fantastic, science fiction, those kinds of genres of program. And over the years, widely differing kinds of production spaces and practices were adopted to make those sorts of programs. So, quick examples. The TV studio could be dressed to be a domestic living room, just like, your own living room as you're watching TV, threatened by uncanny forces. Here, an episode of the series Dead of Night. This one's called The Exorcism from 1972, and it's one that appears in the season of programs that our team put together at the BFI South Bank in London. So The Exorcism was the first one in the season of 7 slots that were on at the South Bank, because it used these interiors in interesting ways. Then, film sound stages using models. Jerry Anderson, a particular favourite of mine, realised the future in a quite different way by puppetry and rather elaborate sets shot on film. That's Captain Scarlet. And then videographic effects, the use of what the BBC called colour separation overlay, which is like blue screen or green screen, crops up in programmes, particularly in the 80s. This is an example from Doctor Who. So different kinds of production technology and spatial realisation in this genre of programming. And I have another example. This one is theatricality and the cinematic. If we can use those terms, we should certainly use them with inverted commas. Here is space transformed in ways that look quite familiar from something other than TV. So I'm a particular fan of the work of Samuel Beckett, playwright, and so here's a TV play written by Samuel Beckett on the left. That's an illustration from a play called Ghost Trio, which is shot in a TV studio in monochrome, even though it didn't need to be shot in monochrome, and uses the TV studio in a very theatrical, quite self-consciously theatrical way. The central example is the opening frame of The Champions, one of those ITC filmed action series of the 60s, which again I'm also particularly fond of. And those were made in facilities designed for cinema production, using film cameras, and often simulating places like Trinidad or Paris or somewhere, on the back lot at Elstree. So a place intended for cinema production produced TV, and the programs that it made, I think, aimed to have a kind of glossy, exotic, cinematic kind of feel that connected them to a degree with James Bond and those sorts of international spy adventure of the time. So a different kind of use of space that alluded to a sort of cinematic tradition of spy adventure. And my third example on the right there is a play from the BBC Anthology Festival. This is The Life of Galileo by Bertolt Brecht, again, which featured in the BFI South Bank season called Dramatic Spaces this month. And this is where, in 1964, the TV studio features as it itself. So what you see is the cameras. You can see a camera in that shot there. You can see the cameras orbiting around the actors who are enacting Brecht's Life of Galileo in the TV studio. So kind of meta-theatrical, meta-televisual sort of form. So these were just some examples of the different ways in which space, technology, and production could appear in, I must admit, a rather scattered way because I'm so short of time. But we did enormous amounts of work on this project, and there's still more left to come out. Here is a quick list of some of the things that we've done. So conventional academic publication at the top there are books on particular genres or on this broad sort of topic that I've been outlining. Then a couple of special issues of academic journals, 3 conferencey events, the BFI South Bank season of screenings, which is still going on at this very moment, and we also created, courtesy of our postdoc Billy Smart, databases of almost all, some exceptions, almost all British TV dramas within the period of our project, that's the 50s to the 90s, which you can get for free off the project's website. And we blog about the stuff that we haven't gotten around to trying to publish in print form, and there's lots of articles about programs on our blog here, all with this kind of space, technology, realization kind of theme, which I've been trying to briefly sketch for you, but I will stop there. Thank you.